Good afternoon, folks. We're up here at the 1997 Little Canada Canadian Days, and we're at Spooner Park. And it gives me great pleasure this afternoon to be able to introduce to you the Grand Marshal and Escort, I guess would be proper to say. But behind us here is a replica of the early village of Little Canada. And I'm very honored to say that these two people are, well, not as old as the replicas of the village, but to my right, the esteemed Grand Marshal of the 1997 Canadian Days Parade, who did not know when I called and said, you're going to be in the parade, and you asked, what do I have to do? I said, all you have to do is wave. But I didn't tell you at that time that you were going to be the Grand Marshal. So now has culture shock set in, and you've got to talk right in there and tell us how it feels to be the Grand Marshal.
Well, I will tell you one thing. I wouldn't give this day for many a day. I've never been honored as much as I have been today, except when I served Mass at Little Canada when there's nobody else there to serve. But anyhow, I really appreciate what Ray Hansen has done and Mr. Gangi and all the staff. It's good to be remembered. You know, after all, I've only got about a couple more, maybe 2-3 years to go. And if I live that long, I don't know how I'll never be marshal again. I'll have to be the marshal up in heaven, or, well, I don't want to go to hell. Well, anyway, what else do I know?
Well, now I know you're going to be the Grand Marshal in heaven. Remember me when you are the Grand Marshal up there, but I'm not so sure that you're going to be able to do that all by yourself, and you weren't able to do this job today all by yourself, so I want to really talk to the person behind a successful Grand Marshal. You know, they say behind every successful man, there's got to be a successful woman. So let me turn my back on you, and I want to talk to Leonie, who has been a Little Canada resident, born in Little Canada,
so nice.
Born in Little Canada.
Yes,
Whereabouts?
South of Jarvis Lake.
South of Jarvis Lake.
On the bay.
Right on the bay.
Up on the hill.
Up on the hill.
And the house is still there.
And the house is still there.
You bet.
Well, Leonie, now, I didn't tell you that you were going to be in the parade. Although, yeah, you're going to be in the parade, and you were worried about having a sunbonnet because, I didn't know if you were worried about your hair or you weren't worried about your hair. Oh, I thought maybe that was it. Oh, you were going to fry your brain if you didn't have a bonnet. But I think I saw a bonnet on you in the parade.
Well, I had it on for 5 minutes, and that's all I could stand.
Oh, 5 minutes was all you could take of that, huh? Well,
right.
I know that I think it was a great honor and a pleasure for us to be able to have you do this for us today.
Yeah,
and
stinker, if you'd have told me that.
I didn't want to bust the bubble. I wanted to wait until the bloom came out of the flowers, see?
Yeah. Sure came out. If you'd have been around, you'd have seen it.
Well, that's good. Well, now, I want to go back here to Robert, and he's almost as old as the village behind us, but I told him the other day I was going to wait for him to be 100, and I said, well, let's do it right now. So, Bob, I'm going to come back over here to you, and you see behind you here a replica of the village. Can you tell us a little bit about how it was back when you were, let's see now, you were born on Kohler Road up in Vadnais Heights? Yeah. Did they call it Kohler Road? All it was Kohler Road, okay.
Kohler was the one that made the road.
Kohler was the one that made the road. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how it was there when you were out there in Vadnais Heights? It wasn't even Vadnais Heights at that time.
White Bear Township. Okay, what do you want to know?
In there.
Well, you talk about, what did you say I should do? Talk about, what do you want to know?
Well,
About this here? Well, I'll tell you about the Kohler Road. Vadnais Heights, they call it now. But the Kohler Road was really built by the Kohlers a long time ago because they were the first ones out there, I guess, besides my grandfather Morissette. But anyway, the Kohler Road at one time was only 2 tracks. A team of horses would be on each side of walking in each track. And it was that way when I was a boy, and it was that way after I got married to my first wife, Mabel Oshie. And it isn't until the last couple of years that the road is being widened up to the Centerville Road for, like you might say, a real highway. So there's been a lot of changes since I've been a boy. A lot of change, but I can remember way back. What else do you want to know?
Well, now, Robert's kind of given us a little bit of a background about the Kohler Road. How about County Road B2, where Leonie was from there?
Oh, well, County Road B2 was originally Ducharme Road. And why they changed it to County Road B2, I'll never know, but I'm sure trying to get it back to the old name.
Well, that sounds like a good idea to me. You know, it really doesn't make sense for some of these county roads because when you look at County Road B2 in Little Canada, it really doesn't go only from Edgerton over to Arcade Street, and that I think it would be very proper and fitting for it to be named back to Ducharme.
It's been the Ducharme Road for, way back as far as I could remember my dad talking about it.
Well, now,
a little cattle path at that time.
Now you say as far back as you can remember. I know you've got a very good memory. About how many years might that memory go back, if I might be so, trying to get at your age?
1913.
Oh, 1913. Okay. Well, I guess that you've got some rights of being around for that length of time.
Yes.
Now, what else would you like to tell the people here about a little of your background?
My background? It was work. I worked in the fields and I scrubbed floors. It really wasn't too exciting until after I got up and around and on my own.
Well, I know now that you said you worked in the fields and scrubbed floors. The only thing I know that you gave up was working in the fields because I know you still scrub the floor.
No, I don't scrub floors anymore.
Oh, I thought you would say, sure I do. Sure I do. Well...
No, I don't scrub them. I just mop them.
Oh, you just mop them now, huh? Okay. Well, you know, it's kind of a historic event today. The chauffeur you had in the parade just is a longtime friend.
Yes, and a very good one. Donnie means an awful lot to me because, we grew up on Lakeshore together. Because he would come over to our place, and I felt like he was my kid.
I think that he used to try to mention to Clarence Ron, your first husband, different things that he thought he had a better idea of doing, and he'd tell Clarence, and then Clarence would say, well, go ahead, Donnie, but I don't think it's going to work. But Donnie, he would do it, and then he'd have to admit that...
and it never worked.
Clarence was right.
Yeah,
Clarence was right, huh?
So I really think an awful lot of Don.
Well, that's good, and it's kind of an interesting get-together. I asked Don. I says, "Would you be so kind as to drive Bob and Leonie?" Oh, he said, I'd love to. And so it's kind of like an old neighborhood family get-together, and that's really what Little Canada Canadian Days is all about.
You know what? When the weather cools down, I'm going to start baking bread again, and he's going to get the first loaf.
Mr. Gagne's going to get the first loaf of bread. Okay. Well, I know that you're not accustomed to being in parades and all that, but there's a first time for everything.
Yeah, I guess so. Had I known that, it probably wouldn't be yet.
Well, nobody...
I was going to give you what for, but...
nobody gets out of the world alive, so, we just got to do some of these things before we do go. And also would mention that the lady on the camera who's taping this is...
She is my great niece.
She is your great niece?
You bet.
Okay.
I love her.
Oh, it's on tape? It's on tape now, Jane. You got it on tape.
Yeah, she always gives me a hug when she sees me.
Well, I think she hugs other people too. I've seen her doing it. It makes me kind of jealous. Well, now we're going to come back here to Robert and see. You maybe have some other comments you'd like to make that 20, 30, 40, 100 years from now, when people get to be almost as old as you are, they might want to say, why, that's what that guy said a long time ago. So tell us, give us some choice words of wisdom of your old age and how you got there. And I remember a couple years ago I took you to a dentist, and he asked you, how come you got to be such an elderly gentleman, and what did you tell him?
I told him that I drank a lot of milk and listened to what my mother told me what to do and kept away from trouble. That's the only way to do. If you want to live old, act like you should. Act like a man. If you're a man, act like a man. If you're a baby, act like a baby.
Yeah, but there was one. You're being a little bit conservative today, because I remember you said you told that dentist, the reason I got to be this age is I stayed out of dentist chairs and doctor's offices, and that's why I'm here.
That's right. Them guys just start the trouble. I never had no trouble until I went to the doctor, and he told me, well, he says, you got scarlet fever. I lost 2 weeks' work just on account of him, because he wouldn't let me go to work. So I said, never again I go to the doctor. But I had to go. I had to go, and I still go. But they're all right. I've got a good doctor that takes good care of me, and a dentist that, well, for them, they can scratch around, and they make more scratches on your teeth than they can clean. So keep away from them guys, only when you have to. There you are.
We'll make sure that part of the interview does not get to the dentist or to the doctor. So I don't know. I guess we could sit here and probably reminisce and go on for hours and hours because we all share a lot of memories together, and we've known. All three of us have known each other for a long time, and it's always been a very enjoyable, wonderful association and relationship. So why don't I just see, we'll give Leonie here a chance to bid us adieu and say a few choice words for us, and then we'll see what Leonie's got to say here.
Well, all I have to say is I was really surprised, and I was shocked. I couldn't find my words for a while. I lost them. Like some say, oh, she lost it already, but not yet. But this is great. I loved every minute of it. And I feel honored that they chose Bob as Grand Marshal. It's great.
Well, you know, we had a question about that, and it's kind of like etiquette. They said, well, do you put grand marshals when you have a couple? And my understanding within the professional world is grand marshal, and it can be man and wife or another couple of people, but you both share the same title. You can say you were grand marshal just as much as Bob because it is proper. We were the grand marshal, right. And so write that in your memoirs and pass it on down to all of those who come behind. So, Robert, I'm going to give you one last thing to say here, and then we'll take a break. Just whatever you want to say.
Well, I'll tell you, folks, this is something that I never thought I'd ever do. And it's, if it isn't on account of myself doing it, but, you know, Ray and I has been, well, when I was in the filling station, which I opened up in 1932, he used to hang around there just to see how many tires he could balance and how many wheels he could make. And I'd give him, I say, if you get the money, okay. He'd get $1. That was $1 out for me, but he got it. And that's the way Ray and I got acquainted. And Ray today, as you all know, that my real son, Jerry, is in the soldiers' hospital. You know that, soldiers' home. You know that. So I adopted Ray Hansen as my son. and he's doing a good work, a good job. I can depend on him. And I thank you, Ray, for all you've done.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.